You are no longer living your life, you are performing it. Somewhere between the flash of the camera and the scroll of the feed, the quiet miracle of existence was replaced by a show. You wake not to live, but to curate. You do not breathe to feel, but to be seen breathing. Every day begins with an unconscious ritual. You measure your worth by the reflection the world gives back. But here's the truth, most will never admit the reflection has become the prison. They told you that connection was the new freedom, that technology would dissolve loneliness, that visibility was power. But look closer, the more visible you became, the more invisible you felt. The more you posted, the less you existed. You have mistaken the echo for your own voice. You are surrounded by millions of people who look alive, yet are quietly dying of the same disease, the need to be witnessed. You think you are free, but your cage glows in your hand. You call it a phone, a portal, a stage, but it is an altar. Every scroll is an act of worship to the god of comparison. You kneel not with folded hands, but with flickering thumbs, praying for relevance. It rewards you with dopamine, that sweet chemical whisper that tells you you matter for a moment. And when it fades, you chase again, hungrier, emptier. You were not born to live like this. The child you once were did not dream of algorithms. That child looked at the world with raw wonder, not through filters or followers. But slowly, the innocence was replaced by performance. You learned that applause could fill the silence of insecurity. You learned that numbers could numb the ache of insignificance. You learned that attention could feel like love until it didn't. You post not to share, but to survive. You share not to connect, but to compete. Every image becomes a small negotiation for worth. You craft moments that look effortless, while hiding the exhaustion it takes to maintain them. You call it authenticity, but it is theater. And you, my friend, are both actor and audience, trapped in your own stage lights. The tragedy is not that you played a role well, but that you've forgotten there was ever a real you behind it. The one who didn't need to be impressive. The one who found peace in anonymity. The one who could exist without applause. But now, the silence feels like death. The pause between notifications feels like rejection. You start to believe that if the world is not watching, you do not exist. This is the sickness of our time, the confusion between being seen and being alive. We are the first civilization to trade the reality of life for the performance of it. We no longer climb mountains to feel the wind. We climb them to prove we were there. We no longer eat to taste. We eat to post. We no longer love to be intimate. We love to be admired for loving. And in that exchange, something sacred has died. But I want you to hear me. This death is not the end. It is the beginning. For what dies in this silence is not the self, but the illusion that enslaved it. What you are feeling, this exhaustion, this quiet despair, is not failure. It is awakening. You are beginning to see the cost of performing instead of living. You are beginning to feel the weight of an identity that depends on validation. You are not broken. You are becoming aware. You were taught that validation equals worth. That applause equals existence. But worth is not something you perform into being. It is something you discover in solitude. It is the stillness beneath the noise. You cannot be free while your sense of self depends on strangers you will never meet. Freedom begins when you reclaim your attention, when you stop letting the world tell you who you are. Every time you scroll through someone else's success, you feed the lie that your life is insufficient. You compare your unfiltered moments to their edited ones and call yourself inadequate. You forget that they are doing the same. The entire system thrives on mutual insecurity, everyone projecting perfection, everyone secretly afraid they are falling behind. What you call connection is a silent war for approval. Comparison is the thief of peace because it turns your life into a performance against others who are also pretending. It creates a world where no one can win. Because the prize itself, external validation, is infinite and hollow. You chase it, thinking it will make you whole. But every victory dissolves into the next craving. It is the hunger that feeds itself. Look at the architecture of your dependency. You check the screen first thing in the morning, not out of curiosity, but out of fear. Fear that you've been forgotten. Fear that you are no longer relevant. Fear that the world has moved on without you. You call it habit, but it is worship, a ritual of insecurity repeated daily until it feels natural. But the truth is brutal. The algorithm owns your nervous system. You have outsourced your self-worth. Every like, every comment, every share, each one is a microdose of identity. You no longer ask, who am I? You ask, how am I perceived? You have become a mirror of the mirror, endlessly reflecting reflections. And each reflection is thinner than the last, until nothing of substance remains. But there is a deeper tragedy. This performance addiction disguises itself as ambition. You tell yourself you are building a brand, creating opportunities, growing your influence. But behind the noble language lies fear. Fear of being unseen, unchosen, unremarkable. You do not chase influence because you love expression. You chase it because you fear invisibility. And yet, invisibility is the very thing you must learn to love. For in invisibility lies your freedom. In being unseen, you rediscover being. When you no longer perform for others, you begin to experience life directly without needing it to be impressive. When the camera turns off and the light fades, that is where the real work begins. That is where selfhood is forged. You may think the crisis you are facing, the burnout, the envy, the exhaustion is a punishment. It is not. It is the fracture that saves you. It is the necessary collapse of the false identity you built to survive. The version of you that cannot breathe without approval must die, so that the version that can stand alone may live. Every addiction ends the same way, not with satisfaction, but with exposure. Eventually, the high fails, and the truth floods in. The illusion collapses under its own weight. You can pretend to be perfect for only so long before the mask begins to suffocate you. When you finally remove it, the air will burn, but it will also heal. What you are feeling now, that quiet dread, that hollow sense of meaninglessness, is not the end. It is the moment the old structure begins to crumble. The identity built on applause is cracking, and your instinct is to rebuild it quickly, to fill the silence again, to perform your recovery. Don't. Let it collapse. Let it all burn. The real self does not fear the fire. The false one cannot survive without it. The pain you are in is sacred. It is not a curse. It is the torch that illuminates your blindness. You are seeing the architecture of your own dependency. The likes, the followers, the metrics, these were never love. They were anesthesia. They kept you numb to the truth that you had lost yourself. And now that the drug is wearing off, you are feeling what reality actually feels like. This is sobriety. This is where the healing begins. You are not the profile you build. You are not the perception others hold. You are not the edited self you have performed. You are the silence that remains when the show ends. And that silence, that raw, unfiltered awareness, is not emptiness. It is the foundation of power. The ego fears it, but the soul remembers it. Let the performance die. Let the feed scroll on without you. Let them wonder where you went. You do not owe the world your constant exposure. The world has not earned your presence yet. Step back into your solitude. Sit with your unposted life. Feel the quiet dignity of anonymity. This is not disappearance. This is reclamation. And as the noise fades, you will begin to notice something you had forgotten: your own mind, your own rhythm, your own clarity. You will realize that the approval you sought was nothing compared to the peace you had abandoned. You will see that freedom does not come from being seen, but from no longer needing to be. Do not fear the silence that follows the end of performance. That silence is where your strength returns. It is where your will begins to rebuild itself from within. You are not losing significance. You are regaining sovereignty. You are not being forgotten. You are being freed. The applause was never real power. It was dependency disguised as success. Real power begins the moment you no longer crave it. And this, right here, this pain, this emptiness, this quiet, is the beginning of your liberation. You are not collapsing. You are being cleansed. You are not being erased. You are being reborn. The silence after collapse is deafening. You look around and realize the crowd is gone. The noise that once wrapped you in artificial warmth has dissolved into air. For the first time in years, you are alone with yourself. No witnesses, no applause, no reflection. It feels unbearable, doesn't it? You think you've lost everything. But you've only lost the illusion that everything outside you was ever yours. This is the truth most never reach. The absence of attention does not mean the absence of worth. It means the beginning of sovereignty. You are finally standing where power is born, the threshold of solitude. The world taught you to equate silence with insignificance, but silence is the language of those who no longer beg to be understood. In that quiet, something ancient stirs the instinct to build, not to impress. The awareness that you are complete without audience. You start to feel it in small ways. The breath slows, the mind steadies, the need to prove begins to rot and fall away. Understand this. Identity built on admiration is slavery in elegant disguise. You thought validation would crown you. Instead, it bound you. Now the chains lie broken, and the freedom feels strange because you've never been unobserved before. But soon, you will see this is the only space where authenticity survives. Every crisis has two outcomes: collapse or creation. Most collapse because they wait to be rescued. But you are here to create. Not a new persona, but a new constitution of being. The power you lost to the world must now be recalled, piece by piece, decision by decision. Begin with attention. Your attention is the currency of existence. Whoever controls it owns you. Every scroll was a surrender, every reaction a transaction. Take it back, guard it like blood. Direct it inward toward your craft, your mind, your breath. The external world thrives on your distraction. The internal world starves without it. Then reclaim your silence. Speak less, post less, react less. Not as withdrawal, but as rebellion. In a world intoxicated by display, silence becomes a declaration of mastery. The powerful do not broadcast, they radiate. Their presence speaks louder than any caption. Next, rebuild your relationship with solitude. Solitude is not loneliness, it is the gym of the soul. It is where you train your mind to stand unshaken by approval or absence. Sit in it until the restlessness subsides. In that discomfort, you will meet yourself, the one who no longer negotiates her value. You will learn that peace is not found in being understood, but in no longer needing to explain. You will learn that relevance is a game for those who fear disappearance. You will learn that stillness terrifies only those who have never met their own depth. This is the forging. You are the iron, life is the fire, solitude is the hammer. The blows will hurt, but each strike shapes integrity. Every time you choose presence over performance, you grow denser, more deliberate, more unbreakable. The applause that once fed you will start to sound hollow. You'll hear flattery as noise, manipulation as echo, attention as currency too cheap for what you've become. And when envy whispers, as it always will, you will no longer obey. You'll see through the illusion. No one's highlight reel is real. Every perfect image conceals fatigue, confusion, and the same hunger you've now outgrown. You will pity it, not crave it. You will walk past the glitter as if it were dust. Gradually, a new rhythm replaces the old. You rise not to post, but to progress. You create not to impress, but to express. You measure days not by recognition, but by refinement. You begin to understand what freedom actually tastes, like the quiet certainty of not needing to prove. Power, you discover, is not dominance, it is composure. It is the ability to remain whole while the world begs for reaction. It is the discipline to act without announcing. It is the strength to disappear without fear. And as you live this way, something extraordinary happens. The energy you once spent maintaining appearances returns as focus. The hours you once lost to scrolling become fuel for creation. You see the trap for what it was, a brilliant machine designed to keep you comparing, so you'd never remember you could build. You start building, maybe quietly, maybe unseen. You work on your mind, your craft, your body, your discipline. You speak less of dreams and embody more of them. You understand now. Success that depends on attention is theater. Success that grows in silence is empire. Let the others perform. Let them chase the algorithm. Let them polish their masks. You are becoming untouchable. You have moved beyond the reach of superficial validation. You no longer rise and fall with opinions. You have stepped into a rarer form of existence, inner authority. And here is the paradox. The less you perform, the more magnetic you become. The quieter you are, the more power gathers around you. Because the world senses stability, it hungers for it. In a culture addicted to reaction, calm is charisma, presence is power. You are not withdrawing from life, you are withdrawing from illusion. You are not rejecting people, you are rejecting dependence. You are not isolating, you are concentrating. Solitude refines energy into direction, and direction becomes destiny. The day will come when you look at the same platforms that once ruled you and feel nothing. No envy, no desire, no need to broadcast, only understanding. You will see through every performance, even your old one, and smile, not with superiority, but with freedom. You will know that the truest luxury is to live quietly, to build deeply, to rest in anonymity without anxiety. The performance trap ends not when the world changes, but when you do. When you cease to measure your worth by the mirror of others, the entire game collapses. They cannot control one who no longer craves control. They cannot manipulate one who needs nothing from them. That is sovereignty. That is arrival. That is peace, not the fragile peace of approval, but the indestructible peace of self-possession. You wake one morning and realize the noise no longer pulls at you. The world still scrolls, still performs, still shouts for attention, but something inside you has gone still. What once provoked envy now only evokes understanding. You see through it all with the ease of one who has returned from a long illusion. You scroll not to compare, but to witness. You no longer participate in the circus. You study its rhythm, its hunger, its endless need to pretend. And in that distance, you taste peace. This is what sobriety feels like. Not joy in the loud sense, no fireworks, no dramatic revelation, just a steady hum of clarity, the serenity of no longer needing to prove. The highs and lows flatten into balance. You begin to walk through life without the constant static of self-consciousness. You can sit in a room and feel whole. You can see someone else's success and feel no diminishment. You can post or not post and feel the same either way. You understand now that life was never a competition, only a confusion. Everyone was running toward the same mirage. Visibility, relevance, validation, and the desert beneath it never ended. You left the race, and in leaving, you found the oasis that was always within. The mind calms when it no longer measures. The soul expands when it no longer begs. You become a paradox to the modern world, unseen yet unmistakable, detached yet deeply alive. Your strength is quiet, your confidence unadvertised. People begin to sense something different about you, a gravity, a steadiness, a refusal to chase. They cannot define it, but they feel it. It is the presence of one who owns his attention. The rare fragrance of composure in an age of hysteria. You start to rebuild life on simple foundations. Real conversations, real work, real rest. Small things done with full attention. You look at a sunset without filming it. You eat without announcing it. You meet a friend without documenting it. You realize that the most beautiful moments in life are those that leave no digital trace. They belong entirely to memory, and that makes them sacred. Freedom has changed meaning for you. It is no longer the power to display, but the privilege to disappear. To live beyond the reach of metrics. To belong to your own time again. The day no longer feels fragmented by comparison. It moves with rhythm. You act from intention, not impulse. You choose what to engage with, and you walk away easily when noise begins to invade your calm. This is what it means to master yourself. Not to dominate others, but to be ungoverned by reaction. To see the world's manipulation clearly and smile, because it no longer finds a handle inside you. You have become self-contained, not hardened, but whole. The world will still try to pull you back. It will whisper that you're missing out, that relevance is survival, but you know better now. You've tasted a rarer form of wealth, inner stability, and once tasted, it ruins every cheaper substitute. You will never again trade your peace for popularity. You will never again measure life by engagement. So you move through the digital landscape like a lucid dreamer, aware of its illusions yet untouched by them. You can use it, but it can't use you. You can share, but you never sell your soul for attention. You can express, but you no longer perform. You create because creation is your nature, not your currency. And beneath it all, a quiet gratitude blooms, not the shallow gratitude of slogans, but the deep appreciation that comes from having lost and found yourself. You realize that the pain was necessary. The betrayal, the collapse, the emptiness, every wound carved out space for strength. The crisis was not destruction, it was initiation. It stripped away everything false, so the real could emerge. Now, when you look at others, still caught in the performance, you do not judge. You remember, you understand that each must pass through their own fracture to awaken. You become the calm in their storm, not by preaching, but by embodying stillness. Your very presence teaches what your words cannot. That peace is possible, that the show can end, that there is life beyond the stage. You begin to live by different measures, depth over display, truth over trend, essence over image. You care more for the quality of one moment than the quantity of applause. You move slower, think clearer, feel deeper. You begin to love again, not to be seen loving, but to truly meet another soul without agenda. You begin to work again, not to prove worth, but to shape reality with purpose. You begin to rest again, not as escape, but as reverence for life itself. This is the new sobriety, clarity without bitterness, detachment without apathy. You have learned that power is not resistance against the world, but indifference to its illusions. You have learned that strength is not dominance, but serenity. You have learned that happiness is fragile, but peace is permanent. And so the story ends quietly. No triumphant music, no grand applause, just stillness. You look at the screen that once owned you, and it's only glass now. You look at your reflection, and you finally recognize it. You smile, small, genuine, unperformed. The world keeps scrolling, performing, shouting, but you've stepped out of the spotlight and into life itself. The performance is over. The audience is gone. The light fades. And in the darkness that remains, you see yourself clear, unshaken, and free. You will not stay hidden forever. The point of silence is not disappearance, but mastery. Once you have rebuilt yourself in solitude, the world calls again, not to consume you this time, but to test what you have become. You open your phone, the light hits your face, but it no longer blinds you. You scroll not as prey, but as observer. You move through the same noise that once devoured you, and you see it with new eyes. It is not a monster anymore, it is machinery. It runs on human hunger for attention, for certainty, for meaning. But you, having found meaning within, can watch it without falling in. You begin to use what once used you. You no longer post to impress, you post with intention. You understand that the tool is neutral. It is the ego that distorts it. You do not reject technology, you reclaim it. You no longer broadcast every breath, but when you do speak, it lands with weight. Your words carry the gravity of silence behind them. The world feels it. This is what true influence is. Not the manipulation of attention, but the command of energy. Most people speak to be heard. The rare few speak because they have something to say. You have become one of them. Every sentence now emerges from clarity, not craving. You no longer compete for visibility, because presence itself has become your signature. You realize something profound, that anonymity and power were never opposites. They were partners. The more unseen your motives, the more pure your action. You no longer need to declare what you're building. You simply build. You no longer need to announce what you've learned. You embody it. The world doesn't understand this kind of power at first. It searches for spectacle, for access, for proof. But over time, even the blind begin to sense gravity. People feel the steadiness in your tone, the absence of desperation in your silence. You are not louder, but everything you say cuts deeper. You are not faster, but your movement is inevitable. This is the quiet paradox of mastery. When you no longer seek to dominate, you become unstoppable. When you no longer beg for relevance, relevance seeks you. You have shifted from the economy of attention to the economy of essence. In time, your solitude becomes strength others borrow from. You meet people again, not as reflections of your worth, but as mirrors of your peace. You can listen without judgment, because you are no longer secretly comparing. You can love without possession, because you are no longer starved for validation. You can advise without superiority, because you remember what blindness feels like. The same social world that once felt like a battlefield now feels like a field of study. You understand its rhythms, the craving, the pretending, the cycles of envy and euphoria. You can walk among them untouched, like a sober man at a masquerade. You no longer resent them. You simply choose your distance. Pity, not pride, replaces judgment. You also see that influence was never about numbers, but depth. 10 words spoken from clarity can move a soul more than 10,000 shouted from insecurity. You do not chase virality because you understand that what spreads fastest often dies quickest. You aim for permanence ideas that grow roots, not clicks. You will notice something else too. Peace changes your relationship with time. The future stops rushing at you. The past stops haunting you. You begin to move according to inner tempo, not the algorithmic rhythm of reaction. Some days you disappear completely from the world, and the world does not collapse. You smile. You remember that life continues without your performance, and that's a relief, not a threat. You have become what the world secretly hungers for, someone who does not need it. You do not demand to be followed, yet others begin to follow naturally, not because you chase, but because you lead through stillness. You remind them, by example, that depth is possible. You are not here to reject modern life. You are here to live it consciously, to move through the digital landscape as a lucid being, using tools without becoming one. You can post beauty without seeking applause. You can share ideas without feeding ego. You can disappear without fear of irrelevance. That is mastery. And when you do choose to speak, when you put your thoughts, your art, your vision into the world, it carries a different frequency. You no longer speak to fill silence. You speak from it. The world will feel the difference. They always do. The noise will pause for a moment, unable to explain why. That pause is recognition. What you once called crisis has become your credential. You can guide others, not from theory, but from survival. You can look into someone's eyes and say, "I've been where you are," and mean it. The authority that comes from having faced your own emptiness cannot be imitated. It is earned in the crucible of solitude. So you return not to perform, but to serve. To demonstrate that one can live in the modern world without drowning in it. To prove that technology, comparison, and visibility do not have to own us. You live as a quiet rebellion against superficiality, not loud, not angry, but immovable. And sometimes, when the noise feels heavy again, when the old hunger stirs, you will return to silence, not as escape, but as maintenance. You will retreat the way a warrior sharpens his blade, not to hide, but to stay ready. Solitude will always be your home, even as you walk among crowds. You will understand that enlightenment is not escape, but engagement without loss of self. You no longer need to reject the world to be free. You simply stop letting it define you. That is the final liberation, to stand in the marketplace of noise and remain untouched by it. To smile at the chaos and move with calm purpose. That is the full circle. You entered the world seeking eyes. You leave it seeking essence. You once posted to feel alive. Now you live so deeply that no post could ever capture it. You once chased applause. Now silence feels like truth. You once performed for approval. Now you act from alignment. The world hasn't changed, but you have. And that changes everything.